This is infrared sensor footage recorded aboard a United States military platform and submitted to AARO by United States Africa Command in 2023. The clip runs 4 minutes and 58 seconds and shows a localized heat signature that appears on the sensor as a compact, brighter area against a colder background. The image is monochrome thermal, so the item is visible by temperature contrast rather than by color or reflected light. The reporting package was provided to the DoD component responsible for collecting these incidents and forwarded to AARO for evaluation. The documentation that accompanies this clip notes that the observed signature has characteristics consistent with a physical object on the sensor, but the investigators could not determine whether the signature came from a physical source, such as a warm body or exhaust, or from other causes like a temperature differential in the environment or sensor display error. The available data was judged insufficient to evaluate any performance characteristics that might indicate unambiguous maneuvers or propulsion. The record available to reviewers includes the video itself and the submitting agency's description of the observation. On screen, you can watch the thermal contrast hold together for several stretches of the recording, then fluctuate in intensity as the platform or sensor adjusts. At times, the signature maintains a compact profile, and at other moments it broadens or fades, behavior that can be associated with changing viewing geometry, variable atmospheric conditions, or small moving targets viewed at long range. The footage lacks corroborating modalities such as visible spectrum imagery or multiple sensor tracks that would normally help confirm whether the pixel cluster represents a solid, remotely propelled object or something more prosaic. The case is indexed in the public archive under PR-003 and is labeled resolved-as-migratory-birds in the file metadata. That label appears alongside the original submission notes, which emphasize uncertainty about source and the limits of the sensor data. In other words, while analysts concluded a most likely cause consistent with birds in passage, the technical record also preserves the uncertainties inherent to single sensor thermal captures taken from moving platforms at distance. This clip is notable because it is relatively long for an archival thermal recording and because it illustrates the constraints analysts face when working from single modality data. Thermal sensors can reveal temperature differentials, but they do not directly convey shape or material, and they can be affected by instrument artifacts and environmental heat anomalies. When a signature does not include corroborating radar tracks or visible imagery, standard evaluation practice is to catalog what is seen, assess plausible conventional explanations, and mark outstanding unknowns rather than assert a definitive account beyond what the data supports. For researchers and members of the public interested in primary material, this file is one example of how operational reports and imagery are preserved in the wider archive for later review. It shows the interplay between collecting units, military reporting chains, and AARO's role in cataloging and making records available for further study. The record preserves both the imagery and the analytic notes so that others can revisit the same data with different techniques or with additional context that may emerge later. Find the source document, related case files, citing reports, and our weekly UAP News podcast at uapdrop.com.